There's a deeper point.
Yes, and you don't have to lose a deeper point just to try real quick. You know, if you have 10 solutions, don't. But if you know one, just fly it real quick.
Yeah.
And most people are not insulted if that's an old story and they know all about it. Yeah. Yes.
So,
get the mic.
in terms of living it, you know, what felt very beautiful was the puff, puff, puff.
Yes.
You know, that came out
Yes.
and probably had an influence on the client more than you might have imagined at the time you were doing it. But, you know, that had a, you know, it took a life of its own. And, you know, felt also like an example of that co-emergence that we were talking about slightly before. You know, the resonance between the two of you.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
that expression. And then that expression in turn taking on its own
Yes.
life
Yes.
to mean more and more.
Yes.
I love that point.
Yeah. And yet, what it meant to her went on and on in a way that I couldn't have predicted. Yes.
I guess
Take the mic.
it probably doesn't really matter, but
Well, hold it. Hold it. Over
and
in
I'm
his
sure
head.
this, I'm sure this, I mean, if I walked in on this, I mean, this just looks to me like focusing-oriented relational psychotherapy.
Sure, why not?
I'm sure you both agree with that, because you agree with this in general. It's funny, it wasn't just a living through, it had a holographic quality, because I think, Charles, you pointed this out, that, I mean, if, you know, if you're used to thinking about things psychodynamically and relationally, experientially, what that adds to it is that although although Sharon felt invaded by what felt like unempathic responding,
Right.
once she felt that you heard her, then the same thing that had felt unempathic, the same process, was either empathic or not offensive.
Well, that's sort of my,
anymore. So it's a living beyond the whole.
yeah, well, that was my,
seminal theme.
yeah, that was my main point tonight. Don't fall for the external appearance of a method. Reflecting is not the point. So it's not, you know, if you really mean the method, then I was not reflecting. Because by reflecting, we mean this empty ritual formula. And consequently, the way I want therapy to be, none of the methods should be done. They're all violations of human real interaction.
I mean, I think you use your focusing process as a relational guide.
Yeah.
It's like a divining rod. I think was the way Eileen and
I
I
like that.
someone
Yeah,
termed it that
yeah,
way in our
that's right.
workshop. It's
Yeah.
a divining rod,
Right.
and it's a highly attuned one.
Right. If it doesn't tick, don't do it. Yeah. And you can certainly try it, but then you see that it didn't tick, so then you want to know why didn't it or something. You don't want to. Yeah, yes.
Again, it seems like an ongoing,
Lainey, take the mic.
an ongoing process of resonating. You know, it's sort of like you check with the other, which is what relationship is, because that point of contact
Yeah,
that
that's
you make
right.
at every turn is
That's
a
right.
point of resonance.
Yeah, that's right. And you check for because of the contact, not so much
Contact, right.
check what you are thinking to see that it matches what the person. You, sure,
You're there, right there.
sure. So that we could translate. You're saying kind of relationship. I'm saying there are two kinds: the method kind and this kind, whatever you know, the co-emergent kind. We started a new movement.
Oh, wow.
I think this ties into a question that I've been thinking about. You used the term real relationship several times. Or we
Yes,
want a
yes.
real relationship.
Yes.
And I think I'm kind of in agreement with this gentleman here that there are many kinds of relationships.
Yes.
And to characterize some as real and some as unreal may be problematic. I don't know.
No, well, I mean, and I don't know that anybody has to accept the word real is a sloppy word you throw, but what I mean when I say real is that the other person is in contact, and in contact in how they're relating to me. So the result of focusing is that the person is in touch inside enough that they don't violate themselves just for the social rules or whatever it is, and aren't there. And when, if I can feel them in there, then I call that a real relationship.
So they're in touch with themselves, they're in touch with the felt sense,
Yes,
those kind of things.
those kind of things. And then if they're far away from that, it's worth saying, if somebody is going around in circles and they're totally not in touch with themselves, then I try one after the other everything I've ever learned. I invite them to tell me their dreams, and I see if I can get them to act some feeling, that event that they don't. I'll try everything and anything. Then if they're really here, see what I'm using that really again. If I can feel that they're in what they're saying, but they're not turning to look at it, but they're saying, well, so I went there, but nobody was home, and then I had to walk back, and when I walked back, I met somebody, and I didn't really want to even see them, and then when I got home, I didn't know what to do, so I read the paper. What are they doing? They're telling me a feeling that they really have, but they won't call it something like I was lonely, or I was sad that so-and-so wasn't there, or whatever it is. That's already different. I can feel that person. So when somebody's going around in circles, I'll try anything. But when they're really there already telling me something, then I want to respond to that. But not in terms of when you walked home, not in terms of you read the paper, but in terms of whatever that was for you, whatever that meant for you. So, was it you got left all alone, is that it? And then I look at their face. Oh, my gypsy, I forgot to tell you. One of the most important principles of therapy, I think, is the way the gypsy can tell all about you when they've never met you before. You know how that works? The gypsy says, you're a person that has many friends, and your face drops because you don't have hardly any friends. And the gypsy says, but very few good ones. So that's what I do, only I want my client to know that I'm doing that, I don't want it a hidden skill. So, I would say, was that you got left all alone? I won't say lonely because the person is obviously avoiding those kind of words. But I could say, so you got left all to yourself? And then if I can see that wasn't it, I say, oh no, I guess I don't know how you felt. But that's an invitation to go tell me, right? So to me, there's a lot of difference in what is going on. Then if a person is actually deeply inside already doing something, you can call it focusing if you want or whatever, then I will not pull them out of that process to talk about whatever it is that they were saying situationally. I may have a question, but I'll save the question because they're already in there now. Or if they're the kind of person that's going to go in there, I don't want to lock them to the surface by, people generally start out somewhere. I do as a client.
Right, it kind of sounds like you're calling that less real or whatever, which I guess it is in a way.
The ones that are going in circles, that doesn't feel like real relating to me. They're not afraid of losing something. The other types I described are really relating. I can really feel this person, and this person's really looking at me, and I can feel them feeling me, and that's a very real thing that's happening. No?
No, it's fine.
So there are many kinds of relationships, but to me, real or not real is not like many kinds. It's the degree of being here.
Right, it sounds like a degree of contact or resonance or something.
Yeah, any of that.
I think we have time for just one more question or comment. Joan, do you want to?
Well, I think I guess it's a plea for discussion is reminding me of the one-page paper that you wrote in 1986, I think, about research, which really changed, at least for me, and I think for other people, changed the research paradigm from the kind that you were describing before, which went looking in the dark for the wrong thing, to basically saying, to evaluate whether therapy is doing well or not, you have to be able to identify when it's happening.
Yes.
To be able, and that's really what you're saying now. Now, somebody may disagree with you, but I believe this is what you're saying now, is that you and the person you're working with can probably put their finger on the moment in the session when it feels like you're both most present to the emergent process. I just want to say I feel like that paper, which is so beautiful and profound, never gets paid enough attention to, so maybe you could say something about it.
Well, I'm not even sure I know which paper you mean. 86.
I think it was 1986, and it got published in Psychotherapy, Theory, Research, and Practice, and it was a set of principles. You basically said if you really want to study human process, you need to change your paradigm in these following 12 ways or something, and then you laid them out.
Well, I do have that principle is familiar to me. That look, make sure the thing you're studying is in the laboratory.
Yes, exactly.
That's the biggest thing. And they so often, the official research methods are such that by the time you divide it by the males and females and the old and young and the this, it's no longer there at all.
Joan, why don't you email us a link to that paper, and we'll all take a look at it, and we will pay
I'll
attention.
scan the paper and I'll send it to you.
That's
No, well,
fine.
it should be in the Gendlin Library.
It's
Just,
in the library.
yeah, just
Fine.
attach it for us.
One page, are you sure? Wonderful.
Yeah,
Maybe two.
just attach that
It's very short.
for us. That would be great. I
Good.
just wanted to point out before we stop that in terms of my keyboard, there were several moments of playing on different parts of the keyboard. The moment when Jean and Sharon were talking about this experience of that hate feeling being able to be present between them, and Jean being okay with it, is he sturdy enough, was that point of the ability to talk about you and me, and how freeing it is when something can't be spoken, and then it can be spoken in the therapy with the therapist, and that frees up a whole other thing. The other point on the continuum was of Jean's finding his own metaphors and images for what Sharon was trying to get at, and bringing from his own felt sense, bringing that in, and how that felt both like a contact and a further living for Sharon, as well as a getting closer to what was trying to come forth in them. So I just wanted to point that out from my little keyboard. And any
Okay.
last word you want to say?
Yeah, I want to
before
say I had the good fortune, after ranting here for half an hour about how there is no such thing as focusing if the relationality doesn't work, I had this person who sat down and said, you know, I can't focus when the relationality doesn't work.
That was a great, right, that was a great sequence. Well, thank you all very much
Yes,
for
thank you.
coming and being such a good audience, and hopefully we'll have other workshops with Jean in the future, and make sure that you take all of the flyers and leaflets and everything that we have out for you, and have a lovely evening.
Yes, yes. Good.
One other thing, we never got to the quotes. Email me about what more you would want to hear from us. Please email email your feedback about this workshop to me, and I'll pass it on to Jean about what further you would like to hear from us. What was clear and what wasn't clear, where we go from here.